Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another exciting episode. Today, we are talking about bullets. Behold, tragedy has struck. I broke my last Q-tip. We've got a brand new Q-tip today. We got a whopper of a video today. I'm going to try and work through it as fast as I possibly can. Today, we're going to talk about a couple of really cool things. We're going to talk about components that go inside of a live cartridge. The most dangerous video, perilous video that we've ever done. And then we're actually going to take a look at a couple of recipes, and then we're going to compare burn rates on two different powders at sort of at opposite ends of the spectrum. But first, I'd just like to say, if you like the video, today we've got in front of us a slug that I made out of aluminum. Turned this on my lathe earlier today. Did a couple of test runs with it. It's working perfect. We've got a piece of brass. We've got an actual projectile, a bullet. And we also have here a live primer. Let me bring this up. And what I'm going to do is give you guys a little focus and talk about this just for a second. We're going to get my big old ugly finger in here. Okay, so this is a primer. This is what goes on. This is the little quote bang button that goes inside of that primer pocket inside of a case. This outside is called the primer cup, and the inside, that little thing on the inside is called, I'll get you even closer, that is called the anvil. The material on the inside, wow, that's a gross finger. The material on the inside of this is why we have this Q-tip. The material in here is actually, this is the only part of a bullet or a projectile or the only part that is actually contains an explosive. This does make its own fuel. It produces a little bit of oxygen when it's ignited, but the hammer firing pin strike and bend this cup and force that anvil to break and not break, but bend out, and it ignites. That friction ignites that little bit of unstable explosive there. So it's a pretty cool process. Now these three components get combined. We put that primer goes inside of this primer cup. Some powder gets inserted onto the top, and then a projectile gets pressed onto here, and then the mouth of this is crimped around that projectile. So let's talk a little bit about, this is what the tooling would look like in order to do it. This is a set of reloading dies for 357 and 38 special. They're a little bit dirty, but all this tooling is still good. Each one of these pieces of tooling provides another step in the process, right? We're knocking our primer out with this. We're going to flare, we're going to crimp, and then we're gonna flare, we're gonna seat our bullet, and then we're gonna crimp it afterwards. This is a crimping die. All that stuff happens with all of this tooling, right? So in here, you got my phone number. Call me if you have any questions. They've got, so this is for a three. This is actually turned into a 4-die set for a 357 mag, 38 special, 357 max. Those of you that don't know what 357 max is, Google it. It's pretty cool. But so in order to, we're gonna sort of run an experiment today. So we've got here in front of us, we've got my little book, my little black book of recipes, right? So in this book of recipes, we can see here that batch 33 at 357, blah, 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 158 grain XTP hollow point, 6.8 grains of unique. This is unique powder, right? And on this, we have our legendary other pointer, which is the bread tie. On this, we actually have another load recipe, which is not for short guns, and we'll talk about that possibly in this video, maybe in another video, but we have 15 grains of H110. Now, this is the only video that I'm going to shoot that requires me to make some cuts. Okay, so right now we're actually going to cut, and I'm going to measure out. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to measure out. So I'm going to measure out 15 grains. 15 grains of H110, 6.8 grains of Unique. We're going to put it in this slug, and we're going to light it on fire, and we're going to check out what exactly the burn rate looks like for those two different powders. Let's check it out. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my scales here, and I'm going to weigh that up. We're going to do a little time lapse of that. All right, y'all. So what we have in front of us is we've got 6.8 grains of Unique powder sitting here. We're going to light it off, and we're going to see how fast that stuff burns. Now, this should be a pretty decent, pretty quick flash here. Pretty quick, right? That's quite the flash. And if we look down into this, let's bring up our brightness and bring up our focus. I'll use my flashlight here. But if we look down into that, we can see that there's quite a bit of burnt sort of residue. It's not that clean, right? You can see that. It's kind of interesting. So let's set the slug back up and refocus. And what we're going to do now is we are going to insert our 15 grains of Magnum powder, and we're going to compare the burn rate of those two. Make sure we get it all in there. Make sure it's down at the bottom. Okay, and now let's touch this off. It took much longer. So those are for two comparable bits of comparable loads of 357. Let's go back over the bench and talk about this. All right, so we just lit this off. So what I wanted to do is bring this back over here and talk about what we just saw a bit. So if we bring this in, we can see that there is a lot of residue down at the bottom of this slug. Now, normally this would all go down the bore. This is going to continue to burn down the bore, but what we can see in my notes here, that what we have essentially what we just used. Oh my God. I knew that pen felt weird. Okay. So this is what we just used. We used 150 grain XTP with 6.8 grains of Unique. This is a 357 Magnum load. That's the 6.8 grains of Unique, the stuff that burnt really fast. Just lost my thing. And then what we end up comparing it to was the Magnum powder. Took a little bit more fire, a little bit more heat to ignite, and it used 15 grains of H110 and burned for so much longer. And you can see here, not for short guns, right? Not for short guns. This 6.8 grains of Unique, right? Excellent for short guns, right? Because we don't have the barrel. Because this is going to continue to burn the whole way down the barrel, this thing is fantastic for long barreled revolvers and for big stuff. This stuff is fantastic for short barreled guns. This is I really wanted to go over this a bit because what we've been showing a lot of different things, a lot of different guns and a lot of different ideas on this, going down this revolver rabbit hole. We're still talking about revolver ammo here, but this really applies. We're starting to get into a little bit more of, hey, what does a different burn rate mean? Pistol ammo or ammunition has an explosive in it. Obviously, that's not true. We just saw two vastly different burn rates. One was a flash in the pan. The other one made a fireball. Two vastly different burn rates for essentially as two things that are similar in velocity. This H110 load is probably a bit faster, but that are similar in velocity for the same projectile weight. So now there's a bunch of different trade-offs there, and there's a bigger rabbit hole as to why these two have such vastly different powders to go into. We're not going to go into that video right now. That might be another video in the future, but I wanted to show you guys this because I thought it was cool and I thought it was important. So stay tuned. I'm going to do some more of these. Any comments, any questions that you have, drop them in the comment box. PM me. You got my phone number now. You can call me, text me, anything you want to do. But yeah, it's been great. Catch you guys in the next one.